Wednesday, May 21st, time is 1:33. And we are here for the Benton-Franklin Health District Board meeting. I will now at this time call the meeting to order and move on to number 2, approval of the April 16th, 2025 regular board meeting of health meeting minutes.
I move to approve April 16, 2025 board meeting minutes.
Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Public comments. Is there anyone here for public comment?
Aaron, we pulled the participants list.
Is there anyone on the phone? Hearing none, seeing none. Moving on to senior staff comment. Anyone? Staff comment? No? All right. Number 5, unfinished business. None. 6, new business. Office of Health Officer update, Dr. Stephen Krager, Heather Hill.
Hello, Board of Health. This is Steve Krieger, Interim Health Officer. I got a couple slides for you all today that I'm gonna click share first. 1 second. Oh, can you let me share? Thank you. Okay. Hope you all can see that okay. All right, I have a couple fun topics. This was Heather's idea to talk about, although she's not here today. We are coming into warmer weather, which is beautiful. I appreciate, being outside a little bit more. We do see more tick and mosquito-borne diseases during this season. So I wanted to just give a little bit of background on those, kind of what we see, what to look out for, and how to prevent these things. Okay. Just background about a few of the things. I'm going to go pretty quickly of the things that we see most common in Washington. I will say, just as general background, we see less mosquito and tick-borne diseases than other parts of the country. And I have a map that kind of shows that well in a second. But we still do see them, and we do want people to be aware of them, be thinking about them. And they kind of wax and wane in terms of how prevalent they are depending on the season. West Nile is probably our most common mosquito-borne illness. Most of the time people get infected with West Nile, they actually don't have any symptoms at all, but about 1 in 150 have really severe, life-threatening, sometimes neurological symptoms. So that's what we're most concerned about. And there is some surveillance that happens in terms of testing mosquitoes, looking to see if they might have West Nile in them, done by the state. Lyme disease is pretty well known. It is tick-borne. Thankfully, we don't have a ton. Classically, you get like a rash that looks like a bullseye. It's got red in the middle and then a normal and then another red circle, often associated with joint pain. When we have a little bit more common, even than Lyme disease, is soft tick relapsing fever. We haven't had a ton in Benton-Franklin, but just in Chelan Douglas, there's been cases pretty recently. So it's around, it's in our, it's on the east side of the mountains. Also tick-borne, you get kind of these episodes of really high fever, and then you feel fine for a few days, and then you get fevers again. It can be really tricky to diagnose sometimes. And then I bring up hantavirus, not technically mosquito or tick-borne, but rodent-borne from rodent droppings, usually deer mice. And, it's been in the news recently, with Gene Hackman's death. And then we had someone in Whitman County die from hantavirus. Can be really severe. Kind of seems like the influenza at first, just flu-like symptoms, fatigue, fever, shortness of breath. So we encourage our providers, anyone with these weird sort of symptoms, think about like asking, questions about, were you cleaning up a barn recently? Were you cleaning up a shed? Were you outside, hiking, biking, clearing brush, all these sorts of things. These are, important kind of linking questions, epidemiologic linking questions that we need to think about when we're kind of looking for disease. Just looking at the numbers for West Nile, we've actually not had a lot of cases. This is for all of Washington, the last 10 years. And, we had the most kind of 2015, we had 24, and if, 9 to 13 after that, and then really just scattered cases since then. One in Walla Walla in 2023, and then zero last year, at least kind of the initial data that we have. So we'll see what happens. That's one we kind of watch really closely. There's also a mosquito-borne illness called St. Louis encephalitis that was first reported in 2023. Well, sorry, it was first in the 1970s, and then we had one in Grant County in 2023. So we'll keep an eye on that too. Just moving to ticks, I'm going to talk about like kind of some of the other diseases that we look for, but just to, if you like looking at bugs, these are what they look like. So these are the ones that we're probably most likely to see. I will say let's see, Rocky Mountain wood tick is not super common, but can come into our area. Um, Kind of same with American dog tick, not super common in the area, but can be seen. But most common on the soft tick on the bottom and the western black-legged tick. And yeah, they can, I'm not going to go into detail for each one, but they can all transmit certain types of diseases. I got tularemia, Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Funny name, but actually not very common in the Rocky Mountains. More in the Midwest, which I'll show in this map. And then that soft tick, which does that relapsing kind of fever coming and going that we talked about. So yeah, ticks are no fun. And again, this is I bring this up just to kind of get people thinking about because people travel to across the country, especially during the summer months. And in our area, thankfully, these dots, there's not a ton. So ehrlichiosis, not very common. This is very tied closely with anaplasmosis, which we've seen a little bit, but more in the Midwest and East Coast. Lyme disease, much more in the East Coast, Northeast, and then upper Midwest. And we have these scattered cases, and so we know it's transmitted here, but again, just a lot less likely to be infected, which I appreciate because I like to hike. Similar with Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Again, not a lot in the Rockies. I'm not sure exactly how it got that name, but much more like southern Midwest and East Coast. Tularemia is more Midwest, although we do definitely see cases locally as well. So I highlight this for a couple of reasons, just to think about like when you're traveling, your risk might be higher, but also we could have it a lot worse here. We definitely do have cases of these tick and mosquito-borne diseases, but it could be worse, as it is in other parts of the country. This is a heavy slide. If you want to look at it more later, I mostly just wanted to look at this 10-year trend, which again, smallish numbers. And obviously we know we're not catching all of these cases. Soft tick, more cases in Okanogan, Chelan, and Stevens County. Lyme disease, 0 to 7 cases a year. Anaplasmosis pretty rare, although I will note that Mason County had, which I also help out, had one last year as well. So we've been seeing that. That's kind of new also for Washington. Tularemia 1 to 5, Rocky Mountain, really not local transmission, which is great. And then babesiosis, not super, really don't see a local transmission. Let's see, what was the other thing I wanted to point out? Kind of just the nice geographic focus. We do unfortunately have more of these diseases on the east side, but there are some that are a little more common on like the forests on the west. So let's go to the next slide. So, public health, this is, we obviously we want to track these cases when they happen, but mostly we just want to prevent people from getting them. I think most people understand most of these things, but there's a couple things that I want to highlight. Mosquitoes breed in standing water, so tires, bird baths, buckets, gutters, ponds that aren't, being refreshed. That's where they like to breed. And if you if you want, you can, even see those larvae swimming in there sometimes. And that's really important to try to, kill those and get rid of them. Anything to kind of stop mosquito breeding. So, protection obviously for outside, especially during mosquito season, long sleeves, some sort of repellent, important, and then barriers. So, window screens at night. If you're traveling, let's say like camping or something, it's something even like a mosquito net, kind of depending on where you're at in the country or world. Tick-borne disease, similar. You could use repellent and long sleeve clothing, lighter clothing. If you happen to get a tick on your clothes, you'll see it better if it's lighter colored. There is permethrin treated clothing that will kind of also prevent um, ticks from, attaching. Again, if you're in an area with lots of ticks, it kind of depends on, what your risk is. We're mostly thinking about people who are kind of like going through like high grass, brushing up against brush. If you're staying in the middle of a trail, you're not really, you know, brushing up against much. Your risk of ticks are not zero, but it's a lot lower. Um, but it might be a good idea, shower, do a tick check. If you're really still concerned, you can, throw your clothes in a dryer for 10 minutes and try to kill them. And then ticks do like, long grass, leaf litter, and then obviously pets can be another vector. So keeping them on vet-approved tick prevention. Hantavirus, again, it's mostly deer mice, which are very common. So anything to keep, rodents out of sheds, out of homes, out of barns, garages, and then cleaning them is that's where the exposure happens. The virus lives, in the droppings. So dust from those droppings kind of is what causes people to get infected. They breathe in that dust, and the virus is there. So you can read more about it if you really want, but essentially you kind of spray down. First of all, wearing a mask can be very helpful, and then spraying down the rodent droppings with like a bleach solution before cleaning and sweeping them up is a good option if you have to do that. Okay, I think I covered what I wanted to cover, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Krieger. I was curious. I saw or I read that there was an outbreak of measles in Seattle, or there was one case. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah. I think we talked about measles the last couple times, so I wanted to, take focus on something else. But I don't think there was an outbreak. There was a case, I think in Snohomish County, and I did see that person went to a lot of different places while they were contagious, which was very unfortunate. So, in fact, I might maybe I'll put it in the chat. I saw a map that like a news channel had put together, and it was like 15 different places. It was, several gyms, Home Depots, and a bunch of different restaurants, and it's obviously a risk to all the people that may have been exposed. But to me, it's also just like this is all of that work tracking that for a health department is a lot, right? And then you have a lot of people that, potentially were exposed. So we'll see. That happened. That was just sent out last week. And then, it takes time for people to get infected with measles. So we will see, if further cases come from that. But yeah, I did see that. I think that might be what you were thinking of.
That is. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Just a quick question. So as far as, any tick type diseases, do you guys track of how they may have contracted it, whether it was camping or deer hunting, those type of things like that? Because I've noticed even when I've gone deer hunting in the foothills and stuff like that, I'll have ticks on me once in a while on my clothes
Yep.
and stuff. So I don't know if you guys track that. If you have, what was the number one culprit of how people contracted it? If you
Ooh.
found that out.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is part of like a questionnaire that we would go through if you happen to have one of these diseases, right? We'd try to figure out, yeah, where, what what part of the state you were camping in, what you were doing, what you were wearing. Yeah, sometimes we even get people who keep the ticks, right? Which is interesting. Then we can actually identify the type of tick. We can send it to the lab. So gosh, I don't have data right now handy of like the highest risk things, but a lot of it is, yeah, the the stuff I kind of talked about, working around brush. If you notice a bite, that's a big one. Sometimes you get ticks on you and, there's no, on your clothing, especially if there's no bite, your risk is generally pretty low, but, obviously sometimes you don't notice. Yeah, there's, I'll see if I can find some more detailed information for you, but that is something we do try to figure out for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, just on the mosquito, as a farmer, we store tires for implements, and that is a notorious spot for mosquitoes. And if you just pour a little Clorox in there, they can't breathe, they'll kill them.
Yep.
So just
Yeah.
let people know that.
Yeah, it's hard, when it's raining, when you get even just a little bit of rain, right? It really fills up those tires easily, and they're not easy to get water out of them, right? Just the nature of them. So, yeah.
I just had a quick, what is the other end of the season usually for tick-borne? We always kind of talk about now as we're heading out, but
Great question.
actually start to
Gosh.
die off at any point, or is it?
Aren't they?
No, it does, and it's in the fall. Let's see, it peaks June to September. So I think September, October is really when it starts to die down. Yeah.
All right, any further questions? All right, moving on to strategic plan update, Amanda Moe.
So we're gonna move quickly in the interest of time and other agenda items, so it's gonna be a little bit of a rapid fire with senior leadership and I here. But if you guys have other questions, we'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting, but get ready.
Thank
So.
Wow. So I jumped up there, I was like, let's go. Ominous.
I've got the slides. All right, so as she pulls those up, I want to let you know, our plan has been to bring quarterly updates to you all. We had planned that for the last meeting, but we had a pretty stacked agenda, so we moved it to this month. But in terms of the future, expect quarterly updates. And then also we're trying to get different leaders and staff up before you guys, so it won't always be the same cast of characters presenting on the strategic plan. And we want others to be able to talk about their work as well. So, what I want to also mention before we get started is what we're reviewing right now is the strategic plan for 2024-2025. We are also ramping up for 2026 and beyond. So we're kind of hitting that timeline. So we're going to be working on that. If you guys are interested in engaging with us on the future strategic plan, let me know. We'd be happy to find that opportunity for you guys to provide your feedback. Or help us build out some of those options. But for now, for 2024-2025, where we were at the time was primarily focused internally on systems improvements, trust, workforce. So that's what our updates are going to be on this time, is some of that more inward focus. So as a reminder, our core priorities, we've got improving trust, workforce development, organizational structure, and emerging public health issues. So next slide, number 1, improving trust. So we have facilitated the recruitment and support of ethical leaders that are committed to transparency and accountability, including Dr. Krager as our interim health officer, myself as the district administrator, and then Eric as our senior manager of business systems. We've also further reinforced ethical leadership and organizational alignment through numerous leadership workshops and fostering a culture of integrity and shared responsibility. We've strengthened engagement between you all with the Board of Health and the agency staff by increasing leadership and staff presence at the board meetings and creating more opportunities for direct dialogue and shared learning. We've also noted from you all, we've seen more board members taking engagement in BFHD business, including participation on committees, strategic projects, and of course, emergency response like the lineage fire, which has definitely deepened our connection between the agency operation and also our community impact. So thank you all. Looking ahead, what we still have to do under the area of trust is we are going to be putting staff and leadership through OPMA training. So I know most of you all are already familiar with that, but that was an area that we recognize that staff want to learn more about. How does the Board of Health govern itself? What are some of those requirements and laws? So we're going to be pulling forward some OPMA training. And then I'd also like to invite 1 or 2 of you to be able to come in and do an in-person sit down. We'll all be doing a presentation. Hey, here's how board goes. Dr. Craig will be there. We'd love to have a board member sit there with us in an in-person training and say, here's kind of our role and what you guys are looking for. So we can talk after the meeting about that. And then Amanda, do you want to wrap us up on number 1?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, on trust, just highlighting one of the big ones up there is making sure we're improving our internal communications. So our leadership hosted a town hall, especially when we're having changes with budget or anything at the state or federal. We were kind of just making sure that everyone understood what was going on. We're trying to get all that information out there in a timely manner if there does have anything to do with budgeting or finances or changes in policies. And so that's been something, you know, Janae and the senior management team has really been involved with. So we are looking at possibly doing more town halls internally, just so that the ideal would be every month. So we're still working out and chiseling all that information out there. Also, when it comes to the chamber, we're really continuing to connect with the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber. We love them. Again, this is kind of new. Just had a conversation about our membership and just trying to optimize that membership and figure out, okay, how can we better position ourselves to have even more communication with business leaders out there. Our whole goal is to make sure that businesses thrive and that we have an opportunity to help however we can. So I think we're opening up some more doors, trying to get involved in more of the health conversations that are happening with businesses and just overall improving our connection. And I'm excited because, you know, they're so wonderful, the Tri-Cities Chamber, and there's other chambers as well that we want to continue to get in front of and get involved with. And so it's just the beginning. And this has been kind of something new for the last couple of years, especially as Janae has taken on the role as district administrator. So like I said, just the beginning. So it's a slow roll, but I think we're really going to see some vast improvement.
I think that's a huge thing, to get involved with the chamber, because even I asked because I'm going to be speaking in front of the chamber, I think next month. And I asked him to go ahead and put on part of my biography, how long our private company, family business has been part of the chamber. It's been 27 years. I was shocked how long we've been a member. But I think for you guys to do that as a business owner before I got into any of these offices, I really didn't know much about Benton-Franklin Health District, except if it was in the news during COVID. And so, I know. But other than that, not really. So I think you guys going there and intermingling with a bunch of different business owners and the, you know, people from the area, you know, some of the leaders out in the area in Hanford, I think it's a positive thing. It's a good thing for you, for the health district, and a good thing for everybody within the community. So I commend you for continuing to do that and doing it.
I like to think of us as the glue. Sometimes we're super glue, sometimes it's a little more tacky, just people need. But you know, it is offering, you know, that opportunity for resources and that connection. And we're really seeing that with our elected leaders. So actually the picture on the bottom left is from this morning. We had Representative Stephanie Barnard.
And you got the other character in there too.
Yes, and we also have Senator Binky on the top right, Bakey Susie. He was there in Pasco for the Nurse Family Partnership meeting beginning of this year or last year. I'll call that pregnancy brain on the timeline. But it was really wonderful to have Representative Stephanie Barnard, and as well as from our Ledge Day, we've really been working on trying to follow up with our elected leaders to give them some updates on what's going on, especially as we enter tick season, toxic algae season. I'm trying to think of another T word, but we'll get there. So I think that that's really changing the game for us, because we do a lot of different things and we touch a lot of different lives. And so I think that we want to help them as much as they help us.
And I think the gentleman right behind this gentleman here, you know, the finance person, right?
Yeah.
It's important to do those type of things too, because if you're looking, a lot of the money that comes from Benton-Franklin Health District is grant money. And I think that's very important in check and letting them know what you guys need. Don't be afraid to hit the county commissioners too. I serve on the Washington State Association of Counties and on the Legislative Steering Committee. So I go there and I give them talking points and push them on the things that we need. We had state representatives and state senators. They said it was the most attended meeting when I was chairing that here at Benton County, from all the way from Walla Walla to Yakima County, Benton-Franklin County, and et cetera, in there to see what we needed. So if you guys give me some bullet points that you guys need, I can go ahead and also talk to them and educate them as they go into session next year.
I would say this is what we're doing right now to build out partnerships and collaborate with different agencies, including at the state and federal level. That's kind of a sneak peek of 2026. That's, you know, we're starting it, but we want to start building out within the system.
It's strategic. Yeah, makes sense. Sorry for talking so long.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's great. And the momentum. I mean, our goal is also simultaneously to keep Board of Health updated as well. So, some of those emails, we'll continue to have those. And then also just, my last update is kind of that networking PIO, communication, working with the counties and regional PIOs. So we've got a couple different groups. One is just mainly, I get to work with Katie at Benton County. And then several others, all the way from Walla Walla to Yakima to Grant County. We get that opportunity to really expand and talk about the things that are needed that maybe are cross-sectional of what's important. So those are updates. We're gonna keep pushing forward. And next one.
All right, priority number 2, workforce. I'm gonna do this update with Carla. So we've been working on cultivating a knowledgeable and skilled and competent workforce, establishing itself as a positive and desirable place to work. One of the areas that we've been working closely on is our Moss Adams policy project. And so they have been doing a deep dive into our HR policies, as well as our finance policies that Eric will talk about in a little bit. And we are hopeful about that assessment coming back and where we can start addressing gaps. But we've also been focusing on strengthening communication and conflict resolution skills through trainings through crucial conversations. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that, but that's been really helpful, especially for our newer leadership. And then addressing truth versus misinformation in the workplace, and then enhancing our leadership capabilities. The last area I want to plug in is we've also been doing an emphasis on chain of command training, highlighting available resources. A lot of this is actually coming from Brandy, who's not here today. She is holding down payroll right now. But this has also further empowered our staff to navigate challenges effectively and collaborate across different departments, going right back to that culture of trust, accountability, and continuous growth. Carla, you want to wrap this up?
Sure. Well, also, I'm going to speak a little bit to our workforce training. We're really working on enhanced delivery of supervisor training tools that Janae alluded to, and initiated supervisor and management training around dedicated topics to make sure we're continuing to progress and learn together. We've updated our process for policy and procedure updates for all staff, moving to a quarterly review process so that we aren't missing things that should be happening, and that supervisors can better find time and make time in schedules for staff to be able to do those reviews without impacting work burden by us giving them everything at once. And really improving the process and development for our annual staff training calendar. Erin and I are working on making a lot of updates right now, but we do have a lot of deliverables in our program, as well as responsibilities from our work as a public entity that we need to make sure staff have kind of annual training on certain topics, and make sure that goes smoothly. And then employee well-being is one of the other categories we have up there. So our steering committee for the employee health and well-being team has been refreshed and created direction and focus for the team, where we're currently recruiting staff to support the relaunch of our team. Like many other things that took a pause when we were very busy over the last few years. So we're working on the relaunch. We've increased communications to staff about employee benefits and resources that they have access to make sure that they take advantage of those benefits that are part of their employment here. And rolling out recently, just this month, an enhanced employee support resource called Credible Mind to support well-being of staff.
All right, the next slide, number 3, priority number 3, organizational structure. This will be with myself, Eric, and Carla. So one of the things that we looked at is centralizing some administrative resources like records management and centralized data entry, so that we're not putting these specialized areas into each program or each department. It's all coming out of one section, and those 2 or 3 staff are then cross-trained to all of those different program requirements. So that's been a big win for us. We've also been strengthening our financial management processes that Eric's going to talk about, and including some consolidation of management meetings where for the first time, we're bringing financial updates to the entire leadership. So before that was just done at the senior leadership level, but again, we go back to that transparency. I want all of my leaders to be on board with where we're at across all of our finances. And then also we've been revitalizing the safety committee, and then Carla will speak to this in a moment, bringing on the PMQIs, Performance Management Quality Improvement Council, that has also helped contribute to that continuous improvement and organizational resilience.
So just real quick, because you're on organizational structure, and I heard you say chain of command, and always think about the Marines military type thing. But do you guys have, or had you guys had in the past, I know before you got in there, did you guys have an organizational chart? We were talking somewhat playing chain of command, where you had every department who they answer to all the way up, tiered up to, so they couldn't get resolution here, they went to here.
We had it, we didn't follow it.
Okay. So now you're rebuilding it
Yes.
and branding it. And
Yeah,
putting
this
it out
actually
there.
means something, this position right here.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, go into your resource, your next resource.
Thanks.
yeah, we definitely have to have an org chart for many of our grant deliverables as well. So it's always been around, but
Perfect.
the use of it internally, right? So I'll add to this, really focusing on the performance management systems updates. We're gonna start at the bottom and move up for me, sorry. So performance management system, we really utilized feedback we got during our reaccreditation process to completely overhaul our performance management and quality improvement plans. We've merged them into a single plan with a lot more logical flow to help us easily align with those FAB expectations. And we hope it'll be much easier and in a more plain language format for staff to embrace instead of all of our big public health speak we often do. We've successfully piloted a quality planning and evaluation process to help our teams identify performance measures and develop work plans that directly support the movement of those measures so we can verify the change and show the efforts of our work. And we are in the process that a QI toolkit is in the final stages of edits with Maya. The toolkit will give us staff and managers tangible tools to support processes and quality improvement efforts within their departments as well as at a community level. And achieve FAB accreditation, you guys have heard me talk about that all over, so I'll hand it over to Eric.
So to improve financial structure, some of the things we've done is we have merged the billing department and finance department. Historically, BFHD, those two departments were split. Talking to other agencies and other experience I've had in the past, that really didn't make sense. So we've merged those two departments into now a single finance department. We believe this has led to improved communication and collaboration across financial functions. So you don't have two bosses, you've got one boss for anything financial, which is that gentleman sitting right there. And so we believe this has also brought additional, bringing the billing department in into the finance department. We believe that also enhances internal controls within the department. Another thing that I've been working on is cleaning up the New World system. New World is the HR and financial management systems that we use here on site. I've been going in and standardizing permissions because sometimes you have permission creep when you've been using something for a decade. So there's been a lot of cleanup with permission creep, and I've also been aligning the organizational structure within New World to mimic our current BFHD structure with through time, changes many times. And it's not as easy to change it within the New World application. It requires some work, but that is standardized. It does now match our current organizational structure. The other thing that will help with when we do position budgeting for next calendar year, we start doing that September, October. That alignment will make the position budgeting much easier because all the departments will align. It'll be much easier for managers to go through and easily see these are my staff instead of staff being kind of spread across the system. Another avenue that we've been working on is we're actually looking at splitting the payroll duties between finance and HR. Right now, the payroll duties reside solely within the HR department. Yeah. And talking about that with Janae, it kind of made sense if we were to split that out into, when you run payroll, here's the, finance responsibilities run payroll. And then when you run payroll, here's the HR responsibilities to run payroll. By splitting up the priorities, it puts everyone in the focus where they're the SMEs on this part of the payroll process. And then also gives two sets of eyes on the same data as it is running through that payroll process. So you don't have a singular point of failure. You've got multiple people running it, two people running it, one from each department. And also they've got a resource that they can lean on potentially if they do require some assistance.
Have you guys been doing that or not yet?
Not yet. That's what we're moving towards.
How do you like that? What do you think about that? Because I'm a finance person too, and I also have an HR background. So what's your honest opinion? I hear management here, but you're a management. I want to know because that can cause if it's not done right and there's not that lack, there's so many people in there, it can screw up payroll. So I'm asking really this one. I'm serious. How do you feel? What's your opinion? And Janae, don't look at him too much.
In my opinion, it'll be a good change once it's implemented, so that multiple people know the process and we're not hung up on one person
doing it all and then there's no backup.
Yeah, and if they're on vacation or something, we're not scrambling to call them when they're on vacation to fix issues or anything like that. Yeah. So it'll be good to have backup and to have two people that know it.
Wow, that's a really good political answer there. No, I think it's a good thing. Like I said, the biggest thing is you just, that could really affect people within the organization about payroll and if they got the right amount of pay or not. So I've seen that work, and I've worked with some big organizations where it's been a good thing and a bad thing. And So I think as long as you guys work together, it could be a good thing.
We'll have a solid planning process for transition and evaluation metrics to make sure it's going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I had to ask because that's something I've been involved with in the past. Okay.
And then one of the nice things with that as well is when you've got a process that you get to work, sometimes people will stick with that process, even if it may take twice as long as it could. So the positive we're looking at here also is by getting those different sets of eyes on it, what are the process improvements that we can put in the system? So maybe we go from 8 hours to run this to 5.
Yeah, you're going from good, better to best.
Yes. What can we improve? Maybe there's nothing we can improve, but let's get a set of eyes on it that understands the process, and then they can see, is there a way to improve this process?
Okay, makes sense.
Can I add one thing? I was just, for me, this was awful.
I was giving you a hard time today.
Was because from a control standpoint, this has been something that's bothered me for some time in that you have one person that's master and commander of the entire
Yeah.
thing. And so for me to have parts of these processes broken out, from the time that the employees being inputted in with their wage to the time the payroll's being run, that there's more eyes looking in on the situation. Not because BFH has been doing anything, and to me, it goes back to that my banking and finance background. You don't have one person doing the entire process.
I agree. And you'll have backup
Yeah.
set up. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay.
And then the last item to touch on is, Janae brought up earlier, we have been engaging with Moss Adams to perform a policy assessment for finance. We're hoping by having an external body come out with an expertise that this is what they do, come in, tell us where our shortcomings are, where's our gaps, that we can fill those gaps with the proper policies and procedures to make sure that BFHC's in compliance with everything they need, and to make sure our current policies and procedures that we have right now do meet the metrics of what we need to meet bar. That is my update.
Thank you, guys. And then the last slide, number 4, emerging public health issues. Aaron.
All right, myself, and then I was gonna do a little bit on the CHIP priority on this one as well. So with our emerging public health issues priority, our kind of overarching goal was to really look at some new or emerging public health issues. So new things that are cropping up or things that have existed for a while and maybe are increasing in frequency. So we have a couple of different kind of sub priorities there. The environmental health risk factors or environmental risk factors priority really is focused around just pursuing means to actually measure environmental risks in our community, because we really in the past haven't necessarily incorporated environmental health in some of our assessment procedures, like our community health improvement process or community health assessment. So one thing the team has been doing is we have our environmental planning program that's sort of merged its environmental health assessment project in with the community health assessment process. So now we are going to feature environmental health more than ever before in that process, essentially looking at key indicators around environmental risks and how we can consider how environmental health can incorporate into sort of safe and healthy community planning and and living essentially. We do have an environmental policy analyst, which we hired a couple years ago, and they are also working on improving how we review and respond to SEPA applications. So we get those across our desk quite frequently, and just exploring where public health can kind of be at the table in that process as well. The next area is the local climate health program. So here in our area, our local climate health program really is focused around harmful algal blooms, wildfire smoke response, and extreme heat. So those are kind of those 3 key areas in that program. We've been, in the last couple of years, continuing to expand outreach on harmful algal blooms. As you know, we've had some issues with that in the last few years. Expanding some outreach around extreme heat and wildfire smoke. So our staff have been regularly participating in. Recently, they went to the Earth Day event at the Reach. Our climate specialist partnered with the city of Richland to go present at their wildfire preparedness day they had recently, although I heard the weather was really nasty and it kind of got low attendance, but I think they'll do it again in the future, and just making some of these good connections in the community where we can continue that outreach around the algae blooms, the smoke, and the extreme heat. A key focus really is that harmful algal bloom program. One kind of exciting piece of information to report is that we recently were notified that we received a $50,000 grant from the Department of Ecology through their freshwater algae monitoring program. Just want to take this opportunity to kind of give kudos to our staff member, Jim Coleman, who runs that program. His grant project proposal was ranked first in the state. So he did a great job bringing that money in. And it's a great project. It's going to study a little bit more about the type of algae that we're seeing in the river to better characterize the species, better characterize the features of it, and in the end, help us mount a better kind of smoother public health response to our algae bloom. So really exciting project. It'll be a 2-year project that I'll continue to update on a little bit. The other grant I want to report out that really enhances our algae program, but also supports all of Eastern Washington, is our laboratory was recently awarded a $500,000 grant to buy an LCMS, a liquid chromatography mass spec, which is a huge, big piece of equipment in our lab. And essentially, we can use it for multiple things, PFAS, lots of different contaminants, but our intent in putting in the project proposal for that was to support enhanced analysis for cyanotoxins, not just for us, but also for other Eastern Washington LHJs and counties, because Eastern Washington really doesn't benefit from the same amount of environmental lab support the west side does. So
Okay,
I'm the only one
here. What is cyanotoxins or what?
Cyanotoxins would be the type of organism that produce those harmful algae toxins.
Okay.
Yeah, those neurotoxins. So, and right now we can do a little bit of in-house analysis. We do what's called the ELISA test, which is just kind of a preliminary screening. But to do the liquid chromatography, which is a more detailed analysis, we have to right now send our samples to King County Environmental Lab, and they are so backed up that they have to restrict how many samples you can send, how frequently, and so we will get more expedient service. We'll be able to serve other counties around us that are also served by that chokehold a little bit. So it'll be a little bit of time, as you can imagine. That's going to be a program in and of itself to get trained on the equipment, to get staff proficient in that analysis. But we really hope to be kind of expanding lab capacity in Eastern Washington soon through that. So very exciting there. Heather passed a few notes along to me about her One Health work, because that's another one of our priorities under this is integrating that concept of One Health. And I know Heather's mentioned it before, but One Health is that general concept that animals, humans, and the environment are all kind of connected in this one cycle, right? And what happens with animals, what happens with humans, comes back through the environment. Heather has been leading a One Health work group internally at BFHD in 2024. Their kind of project feature was to develop a brochure on harmful algal bloom risks to hunting dogs. So they did a lot of outreach with Ducks Unlimited, a couple of local hunting groups, and they've been going out and talking to hunters about those potential risks to their dogs when they're out there hunting in the water. The 2025 focus for that group is going to be a little bit of a focus on backyard poultry. So, on the heels of some of our avian influenza events, just doing a little bit of educational brochures and outreach around home chickens. So they're planning to do some safety videos and I think some brochures as well. And we've been trying to incorporate the concept of One Health across the agency. We have been participating after that avian influenza event. A couple of staff here have been participating in a statewide, what's called a lanes of effort mapping kind of effort with us, the Department of Ag, Department of Health, all partners that took part in that event, where we're coming to the table to really map our roles and responsibilities for a more smooth response in the future. We have staff who are continuing to present and participate in statewide One Health efforts. So recent examples, Jim, who I talked about getting that algae grant, he also recently presented at our state One Health conference that we have. We have some of our school environmental health staff who presented at our Department of Health school conference on the risks of animals in the classroom. So we're continuing to try to bring those ideas of, how we're connected to animals in the environment and how that disease can kind of be one circular effort forward in all of our outreach efforts. So I'm going to hand it to Carla so she can talk a little bit about the CHIP.
We'll wrap it up with our last objective there, which is really implementing and monitoring our community health improvement plan. So last year we produced our first annual report as part of the CHIP cycle. As a reminder, we do our community health improvement plan in partnership with local hospitals, primarily Providence. So we work within their 3-year cycle. We this year have produced videos that are available on our YouTube channel and social media, if you have not seen those, that highlight some of the work of our CHIP community partners and their successes as they contribute to the community health improvement plan. And we are currently in the process of working through our community health assessment for 2025. And a new chip will be developed in response to those results the fourth quarter of this year. And so we will definitely be keeping you posted as we work through the trial process and inform our new chip.
All right, questions?
All right, not hearing any questions. Moving on, accessory dwelling units. We have a special guest today, Wes McCart, Franklin County. Speak to us on review.
So I mean this conversation to be kind of open and if you could just take one and pass it down. Sorry. So first off, let me introduce myself. I know a lot of you already. I'm Wes McCart. I'm a former county commissioner from Stevens County. I'm now the Franklin County Planning and Building Director. I did sit on the Tri-County Board of Health for probably about 8 years, 4+ years as the chairman. So I have a little bit of knowledge on exactly what Board of Health do and talk about in advisory committees and the whole ball of wax. Now, what you have in front of you, what I passed out was a bill that passed, a House bill that passed in 2023. Why am I talking about a piece of legislation that happened a couple of years ago? Well, as I go through this legislation, I think you're going to find out why I'm trying to talk about it now. So both Benton and Franklin County are required to update their comprehensive plan and develop regulations currently. We both started that, as well as the cities. There's a lot of different elements that are in there. One of the major requirements that had happened is the housing element has exploded. We have to figure out where we're going to put people who are homeless. We have to figure out low income. All these numbers are all going to be divided up between counties and cities that we have, regardless of which county you're in. When it comes to the county perspective, we have to figure out where can we put some of these low income housing. Well, the legislature with this piece of legislation actually declared accessory dwelling units to be a type of affordable housing. And just to highlight, you'll see that I highlighted several sections in here. That wasn't meant necessarily to say that these are the only sections that are important. I will tell you though, one of the reasons I brought you the bill instead of the different RCWs is this is spread out all over the different laws. So to try and find it one spot is more than difficult if you don't have the bill itself. We no longer have a choice on whether or not accessory dwelling units will occur inside an urban growth area. This bill mandated it. Doesn't matter if they're attached, detached, you're allowed 2 accessory dwelling units by law in an urban growth area unless there is an environmental issue prohibiting you from siting those dwellings. They can be both attached, they can be both detached, they can be a combination. So part of, as we're going through this planning process and we're trying to meet our housing needs and our population growth, as this area has seen humongous population growth across for the state average, we're well above the average growth here in this area. How do we make affordable housing affordable? Well, accessory dwelling units is one way we're going to do that. How does this tie into the Board of Health and your policies? You guys are the policy direction for the health department district. You set the tone for where this is going in the future. As we are updating our plans, we need your input on how best are we going to, I'm going to say, market this new development that's going to happen in our urban growth areas. Are there policies that the district currently has that are roadblocks? Are there things we have in our current plans that are roadblocks? One of the things the bill did is, it didn't matter what we had for code in Franklin County. This bill superseded that. Covenants. A lot of different developments all over the state have covenants. Well, guess what, folks? If you're in an urban growth area, that covenant no longer applies to accessory dwelling units. It does apply. Obviously, it's not something we as government officials get to apply. But however, rural areas outside the urban growth areas, they've tried to stay away from. The legislature has pretty much shied away from allowing detached accessory dwelling units. They're warming up to that point, but they really haven't had that happen. And being from Stevens County, originally, I will tell you, my county was sued. I think we went all the way to the Supreme Court and back, or at least the appeals court, and lost on the subject of having detached accessory dwelling units in a rural area. So that's very hard to overcome where those will be, where we have more land to accommodate distances for our wells, septic systems. That's my main point for bringing this up. As people put their septic systems in, if they're thinking, if we can get them to start thinking about, am I ever going to add an accessory dwelling unit? Because if I can upsize my tank, maybe I don't upsize my drain field right now when I put it in, but I accommodate for it as I'm planning my original resident, that I might put an accessory dwelling unit in at some point, detached or attached, doesn't matter, except for how's my footprint going to work on my property. How are we accommodating all this growth? And how are we jointly marketing the fact that this is a mechanism to provide those affordable housing units that we need? And how do we minimize the footprint that's needed in land use when we don't have sewer systems? And I don't know a lot about Benton County, but I know enough to know you have areas just like we do in Franklin County and pretty much any other county where you have urban growth areas that do not have sewer. So if you have a sewer system, a lot easier to deal with. If you have a public water system, a lot easier to deal with. But how do we protect those wellhead protection zones? How do we site these septic systems? What we're seeing currently in Franklin County from the trend we've had is that somebody has their home, they put in a septic system for their home, then they later come back and want to do a detached, and they need to put a septic system in for that. And if they're allowed 2 accessory dwelling units and they're both detached on these lots and they have enough space to put them, at what point do I run out of space to put the septic systems in to accommodate that? And how can we develop policies here at the district level and integrate that to our planning efforts at both Franklin and Benton County so that in our comprehensive plan and development regulations, we're helping, I'm going to use the word market, the ability to accommodate these in the future. It's a whole lot easier for me to pay a few $100s more and put a much larger tank in, even if I don't put the drain field in, right when I'm doing it, than to have to rip it all out, start all over, or put a completely different system in.
You know, just real quick, I'm just thinking as you're talking.
Sure.
Kind of refreshing myself with this bill and have it come from a city where cities have a lot more development and residential housing than the counties do. I look at 2 things. First of all, there won't be as many accessory dwellings within the cities because you have setbacks, you have easements, and you have city code. You're gonna have to build, there's not enough room a lot of times to build a detached accessory dwelling within most of the lots that most people have. But if you're talking county, which you're talking primarily county, I think, because you have your well septics. At the same time, if there's and no one really thinks about this, but if you have a mortgage on it and you have a home loan, or you have a home loan on it, is the lender, it doesn't matter what the state wants. The lender is the lien holder on it. they're the ones who are gonna have to decide if they're going to allow an accessory dwelling to be built on the property or not. Does it impede the value or take away the value of the property? So there's a lot of different, I'm just giving you examples. There's a lot of moving parts on that. I don't think it's gonna go as fast as people think it's gonna go. I don't think it's gonna affect the cities as much as they think, unless developers decide to build residential housing with more accessory dwellings within that. Within the county, we have a lot more property, bigger acreage, acre lots, 5 acre lots, where I can see that's going to be interesting for both counties.
So I can speak mainly to Franklin County for the time I've been here.
Yeah.
What we've seen is I've talked to the city of Pasco. The city of Pasco has already integrated this into their code.
Yep.
We haven't integrated it at the county level into our code. And it really doesn't matter. Our code is superseded by what's here right now.
Yep.
Boom. So we've done no effort to get out in front of this in Franklin County. And again, I don't know,
Sure.
I can't speak to Benton County, how far along you are on that. But Pasco in particular, and being a joint health district, we need to be able to work together. Pasco's left us some, what I'm going to call strange situations, because we have what I would refer to as 2 donut holes. So I have 2 great, big, huge, round areas that are county property.
Yep.
They're county, they're in the county, and they're completely surrounded by the city. And then, which is not supposed to happen, but it did, and it is, and it's real. And so those areas come to mind. And then as we've expanded our urban growth areas out, that's where we're seeing the greatest potential at the county level for this to occur, and where we don't have the infrastructure in place to deal with this. I get it. There's a whole myriad of other factors that play into this, but I don't believe we as county planners or city planners or even the health district should be the roadblock to allowing this type of housing to happen. And the fear that I have on behalf of Franklin County is that we're going to be mandated to meet these housing goals that we've established with the city of Pasco and Colotis and Mesa and Connell. We've divided it all up. Well, bottom line is the lion's share of low-income housing is going to happen in Pasco. The rest of the lion's share that's going to happen is going to happen in the urban growth area just outside of Pasco. If I don't meet those targets based on a bill that just passed this legislative session, Commerce can audit us and rewrite our codes and oversee what the commissioners are doing in relation to that based on an audit. Now, we were able to get that to where they could audit 10 counties or city entities across the state in any one given time. The original bill proposal was that you could be audited at any time and Commerce could come in and dictate what your code's going to be. That's a situation I'm trying to avoid by having this conversation today and bringing this issue up, is let's get out in front of this. And how can we help develop either literature or the word, or if we have internal policies at the district or at our counties or even in our cities, how do we all work together to make sure that we are marketing this to folks so that they're thinking about that in the future? If you've planned that when you originally build your house and you get your loan, the bank's going to be on board with this.
Potentially. It's multifamily. It could be potentially multifamily, then the rate goes up, down payment goes up.
Correct.
So we'll see how lenders go ahead and do that. Sure. I'm pretty acute to residential housing. It'll be an interesting. I think your points, what you're bringing up are pretty valid.
Yeah.
So we can work together on that.
The other is parking. The parking element is part of this bill. And again, I would urge all of us to start thinking about how is this using up our land and our lots? And how do we help consolidate that so that we have, the ability to have some green areas around your house and still accommodate all of this density that could possibly be coming our way. And I will tell you, having processed several different proposals that are out there, thinking about it up front rather than trying to do it after the fact, it's a whole lot easier to process the applications coming forward. So how can we help with that? Again, I gave you a copy of the bill. Did mean that for this to be an interactive. I do want to leave you with the thought, we all are going to be updating our plans. This may not be the only subject. Climate's another subject that's going to be on all of our minds that we have to deal with. We have to add a climate element into our comprehensive plan and development regulations. That's a completely different target, but those aspects do tie together, and the district has a role to play in how do we coordinate those efforts so that one doesn't become a roadblock to the other.
You're recognized, Janae, for a question.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple things. Wes, thank you for coming here today.
Sure.
I'd love to hear kind of the context and the feedback that you're providing. A couple things. One is, my understanding is that you have been in contact with Aaron and some of our staff about some of the concerns here, and that we are working with you. I just want to make sure, is that true?
So I reached out I'm just going to be blunt, on lack of communication on some septic issues that we are going to be in communication on.
Okay.
This bill came in afterwards.
Okay.
I have had a follow-up conversation that I was going to bring this issue here and just basically high level talked about it.
Yeah.
But I think at some point we need some more detailed conversation. I'm hoping to have that.
Yeah.
But it was also mentioned that there may be some internal policies or policies that you have that's not adopted like rules. Like you have the new rules on the septic systems that you did just adopt. We also have some policy that goes along with that. We need to make sure that's not a roadblock either.
I hear you on the roadblocks, and I want to make sure BFHD is not a roadblock. I don't want it to be just used like, hey, BFHD is being a roadblock unless we know, hey, we're being a roadblock. Now, from what I understand, we've reached out several times to Franklin County to say, hey, we want to better collaborate, including with Brian, where we've had 2 meetings now where he hasn't been available to us to try and work through some of these issues. So I want to make sure it's clear to you, from me to you, that BFHD is in it to collaborate with you. Whatever it is that we need to do to be better partners, we're in it. We do not want to be a roadblock, but we also want to understand from our experts here internally what it is that we need from you and you need from us. And so that's important to me too, is that when we build a better relationship with Franklin County and our communications. The other factor we want to think about that Aaron and I have actually talked about is how do we put all of us together in a room? Because it's not just Franklin County, it's also Benton County, and we want everybody to be on the same page so that we're not creating special circumstances for one county versus the other. So I support, I can perceive your kind of call to action here. I just want to make sure that I've got also my team players around the table to help support that too, including Erin and her team.
Good, appreciate that.
Yeah, Wes, I'd just like to say thank you very much for putting yourself on this schedule and coming over today, because I think this is what we got to do is open up this communication. And on Brian's behalf, I will just say that we've got quite a few things happening in Franklin County right now that are hot topics. So he's very busy and he's doing a great job. But Wes, one comment I'd like to make is, isn't affordable housing in Washington State an oxymoron? How can you make affordable housing happen when everything is on the increase, including taxes? How can it be called affordable housing?
Can I add to that?
Absolutely, but I'm not done yet.
So being a builder, Washington State is the toughest state to build in. I have a friend in Idaho, say he's building a house for $225 a square foot. The exact same house up here, probably $350 to $400 a square foot. It's because of our energy code. And so what's aggravating for me is, why can we not have more local control? Let us control to how we want to have our buildings built. You know, that's what's tough, is because of the energy code. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pay for itself even 15, 20, 30 years down the road, what the state requires us to do as builders, to build new houses, apartments, commercial and everything. So you can tell that I'm annoyed by what the state makes us do when it doesn't make any sense.
And that is the climate initiative is what he's talking about.
Correct.
So if I can take off my current hat, put my former hat back on, it's an issue I fought long and hard. I know that there are commissioners like Al French who sits on the code council who were very engaged in this. I've been in front of the code council as a previous county commissioner multiple times. Our area got put in a different climate zone years ago. It is a huge issue. It is an oxymoron. It's something that at this point, we're being mandated to do it. I think there's a need. The message to you county commissioners now is this is a fight we need to continue to do, and you need to support the people. So,
yeah, I agree. So Wes, the second thing I had was you and I have went over this letter, and it's from our Board of Health here, and it's on the land and water system. And in this, we went through it. The office has evaluated the land and water system, a small group B. Now, group B means that it's multiple houses, water supply consisting of one residential connection. So my question is, why is it a group B when it's only one residential with no accessory dwelling units? That's what we're trying to figure out on this one.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
That one was being used as a business. So we do, many LHJs do regulate 1 to 2 unit systems if it's being used as a business, like a childcare facility. I'm pretty sure that one was like a nursery somebody was starting in their home.
It's a nursery, but there's no mention of commercial in there at all.
It was though in the application process, yeah. And that's kind of under state rule, if it's again being used as a business, because group B systems are not just multiple connections, they're also where you have businesses where you may have customers coming in. Sometimes they're family-owned businesses, but you may be hiring staff in the future. So you may be doing a childcare center out of your home, something like that. So
there's no mention of a restroom. There's no mention of any other, but just a single dwelling unit. That's Wes and I have talked about this, and I wanted to bring it up. And Wes, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think when we meet, we'll need to go over this a little bit more.
Yeah, we
on
can.
this particular circumstance. But it seemed rather odd to require a group B system on a single connection where they weren't required to provide water to their customers that are coming in, or even an outhouse facility for their customers coming in. They come in, they buy their stuff. It's a home business. It's not.
I think
it's very seasonal, so it just seemed a little out of whack. And I gave the letter to the commissioner to bring up to.
Yeah, and all we're trying to be is more friendly to our constituents living in the county. I mean, less demanding and more reasonable, and that's what we're trying to do too. On these, Wes is saying, put in a bigger septic tank if you ever think you're gonna move your mother in next to you or something. Think ahead, but this is what we're trying to do. Is we're just trying to be more understanding with people who live in Franklin County.
I have a question on the legislation. So once you said that any house can have 2 accessory dwelling units if they're within the urban growth area. So does that supersede any kind of zone, any kind of lot size? So any house, regardless of lot size?
So there are other constraints in there. Obviously, he mentions environmental. But yeah, I mean, can you have setbacks? Yeah. Did it change some of the setbacks? In certain circumstances, it did. So if you had code on an alley that had a setback from an alley of, let's say, 10, 15 feet, this bill superseded that setback. It's no longer required. You can put that accessory dwelling unit right up to the edge of that alley without having any.
I guess my question is a minimum lot size.
No.
There's no minimum lot size.
Not that I remember reading.
All right.
Not that you can recall.
Yes, I just had some follow-up. So again, I'm really glad you came in too, because when we were talking about the strategic plan priorities and looking at that emerging public health issues area with environmental assessment. This is why we hired that environmental policy analyst to start doing this kind of work, right? I think, and when you were talking, it made me think there's a few things with the ADU conversation. We do have a meeting set up for the first week of June, so we can kind of talk through that more. In that new piece of legislation, it does allow cities and counties to prohibit ADUs on properties not served by sewer. But I'm in line with you that I don't think we're in our best interest to do that, right? In order to meet your housing goal.
So if there is an environmental concern only, so it doesn't describe what that environmental concern is. So, again, I think that's where, why I'm here today is to start the conversation and what does that look like?
Right. And I have taken a look at our internal policies. We do have a policy on ADUs and I've already kind of assessed that. And there are a few areas that I'd like to bring up in our meeting next week or in the next couple of weeks where I think we could kind of change the language in our policy or eliminate it altogether to better align. We only had a policy because in previous iterations of our on-site rule, the state on-site rule did not address ADU. So it didn't allow us to address how you could connect another system in to an existing septic system. That's changed though. With this rule we've been presenting to you all over the last year that just went into effect in April, the new state on-site rule now allows for additional units to be connected into the primary septic system. So, but Wes brought up a really good point is that they still have to be able to handle the capacity of the additional ADU.
Exactly.
So one, easy touch point I'm thinking is when applications come in, it's typical practice for our inspectors to review assessors maps, all kinds of maps to find out everything we can about the property. We could easily overlay the UGA maps with that. And in those areas, do a little bit of education on, hey, if you think in the future you want to do this, we recommend you upsize. So I think we can come up with some solutions that are going to work really well. Yeah.
Right. And like I said, having served on a previous board of health, a lot of the policy comes to the board, want to make sure they're in the loop on those discussions so that when you see these policies and you're thinking about it, you need to go home and think about this. Benton County, again, I don't know how you're structured for your planning and building, but what you're doing in your update.
Yeah.
But this is going to be obviously a subject you're going to have to deal with too. So how do we, I think it needs to be more than just us meeting.
Yeah. Happy to bring it back
that's a
here.
great start, but there needs to be kind of what you were offering. This needs to be a much larger conversation, and where environmental health is part of it now, there's also all the other aspects of health that come in, including, I know in the mental health side, which not any of our purviews here, but it kind of is. Housing First is a big initiative that how the state has pushed for several years now in the mental health arena. And, it plays into what are we doing? Both as counties, as planners, and as the health district.
So Wes, sorry, can I ask?
Sure.
Sorry.
You're good.
So you were on a board of health before?
Yeah,
Okay, I
that's
can
right,
tell.
county health.
I can tell. I love
It's
that.
good. I served, I think it was 4.5 years as chairman of the board.
Yeah, I love that because I appreciate when board members are advocating for that collaboration and that working together because that first of all, that's what we do. But that's consistent. And so I appreciate your experience and giving us that opportunity to take a look at this collaboratively.
So in my 12 years of being a commissioner, 4 years I wasn't on the Board of Health. It's because Stevens County ran a tri-county mental health. And as they started integrating physical and mental health, I took the lead for our region on that issue. So I got to experience a lot of different aspects of this. So when I asked Commissioner Mullen if I could come and bring this up, I did it with the best of intentions of making sure we're all talking about what are we looking at in the future so that we can, because like I said, we gotta plan for 20 years worth of growth now, and it's gotta last 10 years. Yes, you can update, but we gotta be forward thinking in this.
Chair recognizes Commissioner.
So I just want everybody to know, Wes McCart is our employee and don't try to hire him.
Understood.
Number two is we got a bi-county commissioner meeting coming up, and I think it'd be a great workshop item for that bi-county meeting to maybe bring this on board and talk about it.
Can we be invited?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We ought to start planning on making sure that they're on the agenda. Because if you're not on the agenda, we can't talk about it.
Rocky, I do have one last comment.
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Let's.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I've been scrambling to catch up on the issues since our last meeting, and I've had some great materials from Carol and not finished going through them. But I was looking at what a lot of other cities are doing in terms of affordable housing and the homeless populations and the laws involving, camping sites and such. And I was thinking housing first when you were, as I was trying to read this while you were talking. And I guess as a question, I would ask how much time do you think we have? How long do we have to plan this? Because there are a lot of pitfalls.
We have to have our updated comprehensive plan and development regulation. Well, literally just the comp plan, but the development regulations really should go hand in hand, which that's what we're planning on doing. And I would assume Benton County is doing the same. By the end of 2026, we actually got an extra 6 months from the legislature. I'm right now scrambling in Franklin County to catch up because there was a vacancy in the spot that I filled for 2 months. So there's a huge gap in there. But the nice thing is I'm not having to reinvent the wheel on a lot of this stuff. It's already out there. On this issue and the climate issue, we're in the lead. There's a little bit of climate stuff that's been done by some other counties, but we're the first batch of counties that are required to do this full blown. The others got kind of a cut down version of walking into it. Even King County, Snohomish County, because of the timing of when it was adopted. So a lot of this, I know when I'm talking to my consultant, even on this stuff, I'm scrambling to look at what other counties are doing. I'm also really stretching and or cutting the box apart to look at what can we do that's innovative, that will stand up to scrutiny. There are groups out there willing to sue us for practically anything we do in planning world. And I think we can devise something that's bulletproof, but it means getting a lot of people to comment from a lot of different perspectives. So that when we finally get something put together that we put in front of the ladies and gentlemen that were elected to run the county, the commissioners, that they can make good choices and keep us from spending all of our tax dollars on lawsuits and actually get things done instead.
At the risk of sounding like a roadblock, I will say that what I saw was Housing First in San Francisco, where they had the mean price at the time that they tried this initiative was $350,000. And the small houses that the government came in and built cost the taxpayers $660,000 a piece. So that's the kind of thing I'd love to see us avoid here.
Well, and I think that was the earlier conversation that Mr. Didier and Kay were bringing up was, the oxymoron of affordable housing put against the climate element and the building code requirements that have driven the price of homes sky high. We are following in the footsteps of what California and San Francisco have done, and it's not a good example.
It's not.
It's not a good example.
We're number one in the country. We're the worst state to build,
Yeah.
like the toughest state to build in.
That's
We're worse than California. That's what like to me, I'm like, holy moly, I thought we'd be better than California. California's tough. My wife grew up in LA. I know California really well, but again, when I hear that we're number one in the country for the toughest state to build in, that means that we're probably one of the most expensive states to build.
It's driven your business way up when you build a residential house compared to how it was by 75,000 plus. I'm probably being conservative on that.
But that's the reason why Benton County, we did it too. And I hope Franklin County can do it too, to where we got all of our projects now passed to where we do time and material design build. To where I'm hoping that all the other counties in the state can do the same thing, to where, yeah, everyone needs to make money, but be honest about it. Okay, I'm a contractor. Change order cost me $10,000. I'm gonna bill you $10,000 plus my 8% or 10% markup, whatever we agreed on in our contract. I'm not gonna bill you $100,000. And that's what happens a lot with other contractors that do hard cost projects, to where they're gonna make $80,000 or $100,000 on a $20,000 change order. So again, I'm hoping that the counties and the cities, if they do local stuff, they can do it to where it is time and material design build, because that's what we're doing for the Juvenile Justice Center.
Yeah.
Shervinell's doing it. They're being honest with us. It's all time and material design build project.
So just real quick, I've heard both commissioners make comments on that in the table. I agree with both of them. When I think we've had a conversation about affordable housing probably 6 months ago, and that was a pretty interesting one. So everybody knows how I feel about that. I do think though that, I'm not against accessory dwellings. I don't think the cities are going to have much impact until they start getting into more new residential building. That's where it's going to come. That's where it's going to affect them. It's going to affect the counties with large lots. But I do see in the future good intentions. I see what people are trying to do, good intentions to try to do one aspect of affordable housing. But the other aspect of it is, as you have these accessory dwellings, you have more houses and accessory dwellings on more lots. That's what everybody wants. Eventually their dream is to have that single family residence in their own yard and lot. That will become down the road, whether it's 10 or 15 years down the road, that those neighborhoods aren't going to be able to have those accessory dwellings. People are going to want those prices because of the accessory dwellings. It's just basic economics, and it's my business. Those houses are going to start appraising and going up higher and higher in value because there are going to be less of them in Washington State, which is going to cost the price. So it's going to seem like it's going to be a cost savings now, and it will help people get into homes, get started homes, and moms and dads as they get older get those accessory dwellings, because that was one of the intentions of it. But eventually it's going to catch up with us, and single family residents on their own lots will be more desirable because they'll be more scarce, and they're going to cost a whole lot more money than they are now. So that will not be, those little starter homes will not be affordable housing anymore. They're going to be up. So it's going to take them out of the market, kind of like.
But they increase the prices while people move out of the state, which will open up some housing.
Yeah, there's that.
You can do that too. More people going out with everything else.
And with that, that's what I want to warn. I keep hearing about the increased growing the Board of Health, but we've got a state that's bucking the federal government right now. They're going to withhold funds from this state. We've got people moving out of the state. Our tax revenues are going to decrease. We got to get ready for what's looking at us, and we got a storm coming our way. We've already did a hiring freeze in Franklin County. I would encourage Benton-Franklin Health Department to look at your finances and don't rely on federal money coming in at a heavy or increased rate. Start making sure that we buckle down the hatches for the storm, because this state's going to face a big storm.
Yeah, the governor's he's already seeing the writing on the wall, and he's already talked about that too. Don't count on federal funding coming into the state. He understands that.
And plus people are leaving left and right. I got people that they're talking and they are leaving.
Well, and it's sad too, Washington State is in the top 5 worst states to retire in.
Yep.
That's almost like, come on, state, get it figured out.
So I do want to make one clarification if I can. I threw out the term affordable housing, but please remember that the housing element that we're required to fulfill, which is a separate law that I didn't bring today, talks about the entire range of houses. There's higher income houses, there's mid-income houses, it goes down the chain. All of that entire spectrum has to be dealt with. I will tell you that the higher spectrum from mid up pretty much take care of their own. It's the ones from mid down that are a little harder to deal with. We don't have developers by and large, especially in the county, you know, in the cities a little bit more, but we're not seeing a whole lot of it in Pasco either. I don't know about the other Tri-Cities, you know, how that's working. But we're not seeing a lot of the low income housing being developed here.
That doesn't pencil out, so why would we
No,
build it?
no.
It doesn't
well,
pencil out. That's the
And,
unfortunate part
and
now.
I agree with you, Commissioner, 100%, but again, in the planning realm and in the environmental health realm, as it relates to that planning, we have to plan for it, doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Right.
And I think that was your point, is probably won't happen much in our area. Trouble is, we have been mandated to deal with this, and we need to grapple with how do we put it in there and stay out of the lawsuits.
Be proactive and work with those. We will probably plan on working with some of those, being proactive with some of those groups, and I know exactly the groups you might be talking about as far as lawsuits and those type of
Yes.
things, and maybe talking to a couple of those board members and stuff to try to see if we can put something out there. Are they willing to go ahead and back off and work with us to make that happen? I think some of them will.
All right, well, thank you, Wes. I do
Thank you.
appreciate it. I think it was a great discussion. Thank you for coming by, and most definitely need to be ahead of this. So moving on to FDA standard project, food safety.
All right, my plan is to be quick. I'm Aaliyah Jensen, Food Safety Supervisor, and I just wanted to kind of share with you all the work that the Food Safety Program is doing. So we're currently enrolled in this is a long one, the Voluntary National Retail Food Regulatory Program Standards, for short, Retail Program Standards. And it's a set of guidelines set forth by FDA, and it helps our programs like ours, local programs, strengthen their public health protection by aligning with best practices. By participating, we're not only like following the Washington State Food Code, but we're also aligning with other health jurisdictions that are also participating, like DOH is one of them, that we can look at the work that they've done to help us kind of better enhance our program and better support our community. So I think it's very important for our program to participate to help mitigate the foodborne illness risk and protect the community, as well as it helps us build a framework for continuous improvement within our program here. There are 9 standards designed to enhance the effectiveness and consistency of the food safety at retail level. All 9 of them. So 1 is regulatory foundation, 2 is trained staff, 3 inspection program based on HACCP principles, uniform inspection program for 4, 5 is foodborne illness, food defense, preparedness and response, 6 is compliance and enforcement, 7 is industry and community relations, 8 is program support and resources, and 9 is a program assessment. So when we enrolled in the retail standards, we did like an evaluation of all 9, and we picked some of them to focus on. So last year we did meet standard 7. So we were audited by another county, and we shared what we were doing to meet standard 7, which is the industry and community relations. And we worked towards standard 3. And this year we plan to be audited and standardized in standard 3 and work towards standard 5. And the program assessments that we want to start working on that for standard 9. That's it. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Moving on to review and approval of resolution 25-02, May is Mental Health Month. Kelly Harnish on Washington.
Right, thank you so much for having me, and good afternoon. My name is Kelly Harnish. I'm the Healthy Living Manager here at Benton-Franklin Health District. And I'm honored to introduce 2 folks. There should be somebody online as well. So Amy Marinoni, who's here with me, is the Senior Advancement Manager for Lutheran Community Services Northwest, and she's the co-chair for the Behavioral Health Committee. Tanya Logston is the Coalition Coordinator for Pasco Prevention Network. And they're here today on behalf of the Mental Health Awareness Subcommittee to present our annual resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. This resolution is more than a formality. It's a meaningful reminder of the importance of mental health in every aspect of our lives and our community's responsibility to support awareness, access, and understanding. So today's request and presentation of the resolution is a reaffirmation of that support. We ask that you join us in acknowledging the importance of mental health across the lifespan and in endorsing efforts to promote resilience, connection, and healing throughout our community. Pass it to Amy and Tanya.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. I'm just here on my part to share about the Benton-Franklin Behavioral Health Committee and my role as the co-chair. So just to give you a little bit of background on the Behavioral Health Committee, some of the things that we do and what's been so unique and important these last 4 or 5 years that we've really been coming together is we're really sharing resources and partnerships among the other agencies that are like Lutheran Community Services that work with youth and families and adults across Benton-Franklin counties in schools, in the juvenile detention center that we talked about, a few other places as well. Also, it's a really great opportunity for all of us to come together and share opportunities that might work across the different agencies, whether that's funding or grants, outreach opportunities, things like the Take Strides, suicide prevention walk that we do in the community. One of the biggest things about the committee is that we just really bring everybody to the table and kind of take the competitiveness away and know that there is a lot of work for all of us to do and how can we do that together. We're also looking at mental health gaps in our community and where we can kind of jump in and support those gaps. And then continuing on that, as each gap is filled or fixed or maintained, we move on to the next that we see. And then the biggest piece is this month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, that we really started focusing in on about 4 or 5 years ago and have just the trajectory of that subcommittee has just grown and grown and grown. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tanya to kind of share about what we did this year. Tanya.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you, everyone on the board, for having me online. There was a bit of a miscommunication, so I apologize for not being in person. But I do want to say, again, thank you. And I have been chairing the mental health subcommittee the past couple months. One of the things that we have done throughout the months is we looked at Mental Health America, and that is an amazing organization. And their theme this year was turn awareness into action. And so we also adopted that theme, and we used it when we were making our mental health awareness calendar. And everybody from the different organizations who participate in this subcommittee contributed to this calendar with tools that everyone can use. They're adaptable for kids, for the older generation, and for everybody in between. So they contributed to this, and we share out on our social medias every day. And then we also tag all the different organizations so that they can share and people can see that we're working together and that there is consistency. Because when there's consistency in something like this, it's easier to make change in the communities. We also tabled and shared resources last Tuesday at a Dust Devils game. We have a banner that we made last year that all of the organizations were listed on it, and it simply said building strength and support in Tri-Cities for mental health, just to show that we are all committed and to a mentally healthy communities throughout all 3 of the cities. In addition to that, this year, we have had 3 trainings this month in QPR suicide prevention in Spanish and English that were offered through Catholic. And we've also had a youth mental health first aid training through the ESD 123. That actually just happened yesterday. If you haven't taken that training, I highly encourage it, especially if you work with youth in any capacity. And lastly, coming up on May 31st, NAMI Walks, the local Tri-Cities mental health organization, located in Richland, is sponsoring a 1-mile mental health awareness walk at 10 a.m. on the 31st, starting at their office on George Washington Way, walking to John Day Plaza, and then back. So we just wanted to let you guys know what we are doing as far as mental health in the communities, and that we are working to do our best to collaborate with other organizations to present a consistent mental health message across all communities. So we hope that helps to support our proclamation this year.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Would you like to hear the resolution, or do you have a copy of it?
We have.
And we're on it. We're already over time, so I know other people have other meetings lined up, so if there is a motion, I will entertain that.
I'll move approval of the resolution, support mental health month. Resolution number 25-2. Yep, that one.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Copies of it. Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Moving on to perinatal health project update, Alma, Tina, and thank you again for coming in. Appreciate it.
But I'll try to make this quickly. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alma Peña Taveras. I'm the perinatal health coordinator, and I'll be talking about some of the work happening to address perinatal health. So the ones next slide, please. Okay, so just quickly, want to go over some very important information from the report from the Washington State Maternal Mortality Review Panel. So looking at maternal deaths from 2017 to 2020, 80% of those pregnancy-related deaths were found to be preventable. The leading causes of the pregnancy-related deaths were 32% were from behavioral health related, 12% were related to hemorrhage, 9% were related to infection. And the recommendations from the panel to reduce maternal mortality in our state is to address racism, discrimination, and stigma in perinatal care, increase access to mental health and substance use disorder prevention, screening for pregnant and parenting people, expand equitable and high quality healthcare, strengthen perinatal care by making it more comprehensive, culturally appropriate, and adequately staffed, meet basic human needs, right? Access to housing, nutrition, transportation, childcare, and prevent violence in the perinatal period as well. Next slide, please. All right, and basically a lot of the information that I just shared from that report is, guiding our efforts in the Benton-Franklin Perinatal Collaborative. So the Perinatal Collaborative was actually established summer of 2023. We meet actually once a month virtually on the second Thursday of every month. And the collaborative is really focused on improving the quality of care of mothers and babies and crosses some partnerships, to improve the outcomes again from that perinatal period until the first year of the child's birthday. And so, who's in the collaborative? There's over usually 20 or more attendees. That includes, providers from Catholic, our local hospitals, Catholic charities, many community partners that serve families in the perinatal period. So that's who's present in this collaborative. And then apart from that, we do have over 100 providers that are on our mailing list that are receiving the notes and resources that we share. So again, some of the providers could be from midwives, local birth workers, to other service providers that support families. And then just to go over some of the, usually in these meetings, we do presentations on various topics surrounding maternal and infant health. We also talk about local data. We talk about evidence-based practices, share local resources, and also it's a space for providers to network. And some of the past meeting topics that we've had has been congenital syphilis and STI, STD screening recommendations for pregnant people. We've heard from the We to Know campaign, hypertension disorder during pregnancy, the One Vax 2 Lives campaign. So again, various different topics are talked about during this meeting. Next slide, please. And we do have a webpage on the BFHD website. We have our meeting recordings there posted. We have all our meeting notes and resources. We have links to the programs that we have here at the health district. And we also have a link to an amazing dashboard that was put together by our performance management. And this resource here is, like I said, it's available to the public. The dashboard is super helpful when applying for grants. Just looking where to focus our priorities as well. Super helpful. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll talk about the Washington State Blue Band Initiative. So this is an initiative that we've actually been participating in and implementing here at the health district. So May is actually Preeclampsia Awareness Month. And so this initiative is to alert providers of a patient's preeclampsia risk and to ensure timely clinic or ER care. Preeclampsia, if you don't know, is a serious high blood pressure condition that can happen after the 20th week of pregnancy or after giving birth. The risk to the birthing person could be seizures, stroke, organ damage, death. The risk to the baby could be premature birth, low birth rate, or death as well. And we were able to implement this project thanks to a grant we received from the Department of Health that we applied and received. And that has helped us purchase the materials that we need to implement, which is on the next slide. Yes, so we are implementing with the Nurse Family Partnership program. And so the nurses are providing blood pressure monitors and teaching pregnant clients that have high blood pressure or maybe at risk of developing preeclampsia, how to check their blood pressure at home. You know, what, just again, that part of education that maybe providers are missing in those appointments. So just, again, continuing that education is super important. And so you know, they're provided with a wallet card and a blue band, which they are advised to wear throughout their pregnancy and even after delivery until their provider says they're no longer at risk of preeclampsia. And then we have also shared our training, you know, the steps we're taking to implement, although we are implementing, you know, at a health district. And usually this, forgot to mention, this initiative is more hospital level. But we have shared that with our local hospitals and just continuing to work with them, and hopefully they can implement at the hospital level as well. Next slide, please. And I know we heard that this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. It is also a Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. And if you didn't know, 14% of birthing people experience postpartum depression in the Greater Columbia region. And access to perinatal mental health specialists in our counties is actually very limited. Next. One quick release. And so I want to share a wonderful grant that we received actually from the DCYF. We received last year, it's 2-year funding, $20,000 every year. And that has allowed us to do several things. We've been able to start a local perinatal mental health task force. We've also offered free perinatal mood and anxiety disorders training to providers in the counties that serve families, not just mental health providers, but also other providers. And we've also developed a local perinatal mental health resource, which we've also included other resources for this population that we are sharing with local providers, local hospitals, so that way they know where to refer clients. And next slide, please. Okay, and again, continuing on with that grant, we've had the opportunity to start 2 parenting and postpartum support groups that are free to the community. Any parent that is pregnant, postpartum, or caring for young children, this is a space where they can come and again, just share their experiences. So this is a way that we as a community can support mental health for parents, and especially first-time parents who may experience some support, may need some support there. And These are just some photos of our flyers, and we do have the group at our local library. Again, just a space that's easily accessible for the community. Okay, and lastly, I just want to talk about a wonderful opportunity to be part of the NACCHO Maternal Child Health and Emergency Preparedness Response Virtual Learning Collaborative. And this is just an opportunity for us to really look at how we can incorporate the unique needs of pregnant people, lactating, babies as well in our emergency plans. And also been able to gain tools on how to educate our families, what they can do to create their own low-cost emergency kits so they can be better prepared, right? Including some of those essential things that maybe people don't think about, right? Infant feeding supplies and things like that. And yeah, this is just some other things that we're doing here in the perinatal health world. And I think that's my last slide.
All righty, well, thank you. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on, any announcements, if any?
I will also say that at all my OB appointments, I've seen almost flyers, so that's really cool. It's really getting out there.
Moving on to approval of vouchers.
What? Yes, sir.
I can try to.
I'll move
Go ahead.
the Board of Health approve payment to voucher number 2025 through 40-2025 in the amount of $1,203,755.16.
Second.
And then second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, my executive session, we're going to close session.
Keep it moving.
I don't know where I'm at.
We've come out of closed session. Date of the next meeting is June 18th, 2025. At this point, if there's no further business for the good, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.